Well, hello everyone. This is Andrew McKee again with Fair Life. It's another wonderful Monday night or evening or wherever you are, depending on how you look at it. Time changes, really. All those different times everybody has to go through. But hey, everyone. Hey, Jan, Janine, Mark, Adam. Hey, great to see you. Kurt, hello. Yeah, it has been another interesting week. I'm still getting a lot of prep work done for Dragon Con right now, and Gen Con as well. And it's always strange because in the past I've always done a lot of fairs, but it was always tough for me because, well, on Labor Day weekend, I always did Dragon Con, which is a big weekend for a lot of fairs. And it's sometimes been tough to find fairs around that to work with. And with Gen Con being around it too, and the Celtic Festival here in outside of Austin at Sherwood, sort of like a bang, bang, bang. I tend to do those, and then I get into the fall with late fall with Ren fairs. But that's how it works. Oh, hey, Drew. Great to see you. And Damaris and Tanya. Hey. Um, okay. And Janine says she made it through finals, but haven't gotten grades yet. That's always the stressful time. I do remember it well. Oh, yes, I remember it well. I remember waiting for my grade and seeing it in one of the halls at the University of Texas and just kind of going, yeah. When I finally saw it, yeah, it is. I know the feeling, so you'll get there, Janine. Congrats. Definitely. Definitely. ah, Now we do have some fewer Ren fairs going on this weekend than we have last, so that's always a little different. But yeah, yeah, it has. Oh wow! I recorded a podcast with Mark Gunn today, and that's always fun. That was for Dragon Con, and we recorded our podcast that you can see on our Patreon page, and the audio will be released here soon. The videos on the Patreon page, and yeah, that's always fun too. Doing a lot more podcasts these days too. I'm kind of curious from just asking for y'all. Do y'all listen to a lot more podcasts than you used to before COVID, like a year and a half ago? Do you listen to a lot more, or is it about the same? I'm actually kind of curious because, yeah, I know we definitely watched a lot more videos online in the last year. We definitely got used to that. I know I got used to producing a lot more, and I watched a lot more too. So I'm sure all of you did. But how about podcasts? Is that something that you've seen more of? Mm. And Drew is right. Yeah, you really should be doing a. I believe you meant to say podcast. At least I hope so, because if it's a podcast, yeah, we need to have a talk. I don't do that kind of work, but hey, or a video log. Yeah, a vlog. I think you really should. I definitely think you should. Okay, Kurt. Oh, and you're saying that a lot more during than before or after. So afterwards, you kind of backed off a little bit. Maybe you kind of saw. You kind of got a chance to sample a lot more than you would normally, and you kind of picked the ones you liked and you listened to those. I mean, have your taste changed since you got to sample all those, Kurt? I'd be curious. Okay, yes, Jan says about the same. And Damaris, no, not the. And you know, it's one of those things. If you've never done it, you don't really know what you're missing, so you tend to not go there. Okay, Tanya says live streams definitely, and I think all of us here. I mean, if you're watching this, you've probably seen more live streams over the last year and a half than you did before. I would think so. Oh, it's Susan. Hey, great to see you. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. And Susan makes a good point because I know with podcasts and audiobooks for me, it's the driving. And last year I didn't go to all the fairs and travel as much. So yeah, I missed out on a lot of that. Hmm. Okay. And Janine says she did listen to more during the main part. Um, okay. Oh, and Kurt's saying it's now at this fair season. Well, okay. Well, that's true. Um, but I mean, fair is normally weekends, so you generally have the weeks to listen to things. Also, I've noticed that a lot of podcasts are released during the week, um, usually like a Thursday, Friday, or a Monday or Tuesday kind of thing. I think more of them are released during the week, or at least the ones I listen to. Maybe some of them, yeah, there probably are. I know there are some that are released in the weekends, but yeah. Hmm. Oh, okay. And Drew saying that just he got the Facebook live stream bug with the pandemic. Facebook live stream bug. Maybe that's not a good way to put that when you're talking about the pandemic. Maybe not. I think I'll change that. Um, oh, and kind of cut back on podcasts. Drew, interesting. Okay. Why, Drew? I'm kind of curious. Why did you cut back? Do you think just because of the difference? How you handled your week? Because that's kind of interesting to me. Hmm. Because yeah, I mean this whole digital medium that a lot of now Ren fairs are starting to try to figure out and get into. Some have been doing it for several years, so it wasn't a huge leap when it happened. But a majority of them, I think it's fair to say a majority of them, kind of had to be thrown into the deep end. I mean, podcasts, live streams, they didn't know what they were doing. And it was quite rough. And that's for performers and everybody else, and merchants and everyone. Uh, but also, yeah, with the Ren fairs themselves. And they're starting to realize that without an online component to the Ren fair, they're not going to be taken as seriously. That was always the one thing that I learned when I first started doing, well, performing as a musician. It's like there are these things you need and you have to do, or you're not going to be taken seriously. You need business cards. That was 20 years ago, not so much now, but you needed a business card or you wouldn't be taken seriously. You needed a website or you wouldn't be taken seriously. That happened soon after I started. Um, it's that switch from going from press kits that were paper and all of that to an online press kit. And if you didn't have eventually, if you didn't have a YouTube page, you weren't taken seriously. That was kind of strange when that happened. Huh. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So yeah, Susan's been catching up on a lot of stuff. Okay. So Drew just didn't listen to many podcasts to begin with. Yeah, and that's one of the good things about podcasts. Drew and Susan are talking about it. There's a lot of variation, and I know some of you completely understand this. Drew definitely does. I know as an entertainer, um, you're never going to please everyone with anything you do. You are a niche market for everything you do as a performer. You try to broaden it as much as you can, but that's the thing. So the beautiful thing is that there are a lot of options for everybody. Oh, Jeremy, hey, great to see you here too. And Jeremy says only takes people seriously if they don't have a YouTube page. I love it. Well, yes, and I never wanted to be taken seriously, so that's why I have a YouTube page, because I'm a goofball and I wanted to be taken, in a silly manner. I think that's important for me. It really is. Yes, Drew, I totally agree with that, and I'm sure you've seen it happen. I've seen it happen with performers who tried to do that, and I think at best it came down as either watered down or some sort of copy of someone else's work. And at best. At worst, it just didn't work and was dreadful. I mean, when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, is, I think, the quote. But, thank you, Susan. I totally agree with that. Anyone who uses the word influencers or write off. That's never, I'm never going to try to do that. That's not who I want to be. Um, an influencer, I describe it like this: an influencer is somebody who they're not an artist anymore. They don't create, they react. They're letting advertising drive content is really what it boils down to. And once you do that, you're running an advertising agency. You're not you're not an artist, not in that way anyway. Yeah, you're responding. You're responding to people, and they say, "This is what I want," and you just do the commission, and that's it. You're not creating anything of your own. Yeah, and Drew, yeah, ruined a perfectly good show by trying to please everyone. Oh, and David, hey, that is hilarious. I just in the podcast I recorded with Mark earlier today for Dragon Con, we mentioned the Boogie Nights and talked about y'all. We were talking about Dragon Cons of the past, and that's wow, excellent, great seeing you. And Jeremy says, "I please no one as an evidence sales." That's great. I love that. Yes, Katsurita. Yes. Um, yeah, shaping your life around doing so. That's something I will never, ever do. Not a fan. Yes, Susan. I, yeah, a good friend of mine said a while ago that, I'm an elitist, and I'm okay with that because I, I want to be better in every way I can. And I recognize that, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And I'm like, wow, that's an interesting way to look at it. I kind of get that. I kind of get that. So I think it's okay to be a bit snobbish as long as you don't get too judgmental about it. I mean, I always say that for me, the only person I'm ever competing against is myself because I'm trying to do the best that I can do. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm winning. Oh, wow, Jeremy. Yeah, you're not, I'm sure you know the Boogie Nights. But yeah, they were, wow, when did I first see them? Back in 2002, I think? Yeah. And been huge fans ever since. Mark and I, with the Brobdingnagian and Bards, covered a couple of their songs. And we really try to avoid covering more than one song from another band because we kind of think we don't want to be copycats. We don't want to take other people's work. But their stuff was just so good, we had to make an allowance and say, okay, we're doing two. We have to because it was just so awesome. We loved it so much. And even then, it was tough to decide because, yeah, there were other songs that we were kind of thinking, oh, I'd love to do that one. But great stuff, great stuff. Yeah, Tanya, I agree. Selective instead of snobbish. Well put, well put. And yes, Susan, raising the bar, very important. Drew, that is a good point. I always say the same thing about musicians at Faire because, I don't want to be like other musicians exactly. I mean, not a carbon copy because that's bad. But I always say that if they're doing well and people tip them, that's great for me because people now feel comfortable tipping. And if they come around and see me busking on the lane at a fair, well, they're more likely to tip me if they've already tipped someone else. So yeah, that's how I've always looked at it. Right, right. So Kurt, you're saying that being stuck at home is why you listen to podcasts. I get that. That was never how I always listen to podcasts on the road or on commutes of some kind. I mean, even when I'm not traveling around, I usually do some drives during the week around Faire, whether it's to go run an errand or do anything. And that's the best time for podcasts. I mean, podcasts, I think one of the strongest things about podcasts is like they're mini books. I mean, like an audio book is great for a long, 3 hour, 5 hour, 10 hour drive. But what if you just got 15 minutes? And there are plenty of podcasts that last about 15 minutes. I mean, some are longer, but that works for short in-town commutes and errands. And I think they're great for that. So yeah, you just queue them up and have them ready for the week and try to find the ones that you like. Mm. Oh, And Jeremy's saying like by walking the dogs. That's listening to podcasts for that. That's a good one. Definitely, definitely. Hmm. Yes, Kurt, I totally agree with that. Um, yeah, it's the quality musicians, and honestly, diversity is great too. I mean, having musicians that are different, different instruments, different types of music is great. But even if it's similar, as long as as long as some of the songs and everything are different. I mean, I think the only gripe I tend to have is that there's those 10 Ren Fair songs that everybody does, and that's okay as long as that's not your whole set. I've always tried to pick songs from my sets that aren't the ones people normally do, and I tend to think that's better. But that's just my opinion. I also don't think I should have the right to tell everybody this is how you should do music, because you're back to advertising agency if you start thinking that way. As long as everybody looks at it in different ways, it's a victory. Mm. Oh, okay, Drew, that's good. That's a good one. While you're exercising is another good time to do that. Like Jeremy's walking the dogs, and that's exercise, so that's a good example. Yes, and Jeremy, you're right. You do not do those standard Ren Fair songs. Quite the opposite. You do the rare traditional songs and original songs, and that is a great way to do it. That is a great way to do it. I totally approve and applaud that. I applaud that. Um, I saw this. I saw this advertisement the today actually, or I guess it was yesterday. It was yesterday for sort of like mini Ren fairs in Scotland. And what they're doing is they're trying to get tourism back to Scotland. And there's this collective of all these castles in Scotland, and for tours and visits. And what they did was they started hiring some groups and musicians and performers over there, and they're trying to do some online streams and try to encourage people to come out. And I was kind of thinking, that's interesting. We never really hear much about Ren fairs in Europe. You really don't. It's kind of odd. I think I've heard that what they're doing is, well, I mean, the fairs in Europe, they're more, well, a lot of them aren't at the fairs like we know. They're more like, they're more like July 4th holiday. I mean, they're commemorating old things that happened, more like parades. But there have been a lot more Ren Fair type events that have been cropping up in Europe. At least were before the pandemic, before COVID. They were starting to, because I think partly because of the popularity of the fairs in America. So yeah, I really think. Um, I think it's kind of interesting, and I found it interesting that that was Scotland's advertising approach to get people in their castles to try to appeal to overseas markets like America, um, because they're trying to approach it like, hey, it's like a Ren Fair, come on out, and it made me kind of realize how, um, well, I guess how people perceive America and how popular the view of Ren fairs in America has been to Europe. I mean, they look at how we do fairs and they're thinking, wow, that's the numbers that we get in some of these fairs, tens of thousands of people who come in. It's, I'm sure, pretty impressive to them. So I just kind of found that advertising interesting. Um, but yeah, if you want to take a look, you can take a look at it. It's you can just do Scottish castles and fair and look it up, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. Um, oh, and Damaris is saying, do they need entertainers? Well, I think they've got it kind of lined up, and this is all at the in the beginning. But I'll keep an eye out. If I see anything that looks like they might, or hear about anything, I will let you know. Because yeah, I would love to love to go to Scotland and perform there. I've been to Ireland a couple of times, and that was a lot of fun. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Um, And I get the whole appeal of all the castles. I mean, in Ireland, our tour guide the first time I went was he. We just look and see this great castle out the window of the bus, and we just say, "Oh, look at that great castle!" It's like, yeah, that's an ABC, and we'd see another one later down the road, and oh, that's another ABC. It's like, ABC, what's an ABC? And he just says, oh, that just means another bloody castle. Because they're so ubiquitous in Ireland, you see them everywhere, and you just almost get sick of it. Uh, but yeah, at first I kind of thought it was amazing how many castle ruins they have in Ireland and how they're still there, and pretty much in an almost an almost enclosed state in a bubble. I mean, you just they decay over time, but they're just there. I mean, you can go through a gate and just walk there through them. It's really odd. I mean, it's not like a tourist trap. It's just there on everybody's land, here and there, all over the place. And it kind of struck me that, well, I mean, Ireland, they were they were so late getting into the Industrial Revolution, and they were practically, they still had elements of feudalism going into the 1800s. So I get that they they have all of those, and they haven't been bulldozed over, and big buildings didn't come up where they were. That's just the type of country. So I found that interesting. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the fairs that we have going on this weekend. Not too many. Let's just jump right on over. Let's see. Here we go. Some of them are, most of them are the same as last week. We lost a few that are done, unfortunately, but a few of the big ones are still going on. We have, of course, the Colorado Fair and Colorado Renaissance Festival in Larkspur, Colorado, and of course Sterling Renaissance Festival in Sterling, New York, and of course Bristol Renaissance Fair in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Again, this is the second and final weekend of the Montana Renaissance Fair coming up, and that's in Kalispell, Montana, way up there in the northwest. Whew. Then you also have the Great Lakes Medieval Fair and Marketplace in Rock Creek, Ohio, going on for another weekend. And a new one added this week is Wren in the Glen in Downing, Wisconsin. That's in the west side of Wisconsin up there. Yes. I know, Susan. Sterling, I know. Those crazy, crazy borders. And you're right, Janine. Yeah, it isn't easy to burn down stone castles. That's why I was thinking bulldozers. Just coming in and taking that stone and reusing it as somebody's somebody's wall around their summer home. That kind of thing. The kind of thing we do in America, with traditional buildings. But we have the advantage of not having things usually that old. Oh, well, Susan, 5 hours. By Texas standards, that's nothing. That's next door. So no worries. So yes, so again, summer, not many fairs going on. We kind of hit those spikes and decreases here and there over the summer, but still not a bad number and a few good sized ones. So that's always pleasant and nice. Always good. Oh yeah. So anyway, wow, let's see. I guess, when I thought about the whole Scottish castles and how they were kind of going with Ren fairs, I thought about 7 reasons, and I thought a good 7 reasons would be 7 reasons Americans don't pay attention to European Ren fairs. Because even before the pandemic, we really didn't. I mean, you didn't really, nobody did. I mean, we didn't talk about it. Performers didn't talk about it. I mean, in fact, I don't know many performers who even do European Ren fairs. Paulo Garbanzo has. I mean, Vince Conway, the hammer dulcimer player, he goes to Europe every year, and I don't think he usually plays at them. He prefers to busk in the cities. Doesn't really. I don't think he really does fairs. He might have before, but not frequently. I don't think. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. You don't see it too often. So here, okay, let's do 7 reasons. And we have the 7 reasons Americans don't pay attention to European Ren fairs. Um, oh, and we're talking about the copyright disputes. Yeah, on YouTube, they'll ding you for almost everything. Just dispute it, and you're good. That's that's it. Put it in as it's a traditional song, and boom, it won't be a problem. I've had to do that before. Ah, yeah, yeah. There are ins and outs to busking, definitely, in Europe. You're right, Jeremy. So here we go. The number 7 reason why Americans don't pay attention to European Ren fairs. Because they're not commonly called Ren fairs. So, I mean, it doesn't even have the name. They're not called Renaissance fairs or Renaissance festivals. They have very unique and differing names. So it's Susan's already mapped out her whole 7 reasons, huh? Wow. I love it. I love it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you've already touched on a few of mine. Damn you. Excellent. Okay, number 6. Number 6. Um, your garb is too expensive to afford the tickets to fly. So you're right. It's just too bloody expensive to fly over there and stay and handle all that. I mean, it's crazy. Um, really, really. It is. Yeah, I mean, you're already paying so much for weapons and garb and musical instruments or whatever, and then you have to do that. Ooh, that's an investment. That's pretty crazy. So, okay. Number 5. Number 5. Swords and replica guns on planes are, well, a big no-no. Let's just say that. Yeah, yeah, definitely a no-no. You're not going to be able to get all of your stuff on there easily. Let's just be honest. Yeah, you're right, Kurt. Yeah, you're going to need more than a suitcase just for the garb. I mean, you almost have to ship that. I mean, it's really just ship it ship it freight a few months ahead of time, meet it when you get there. That's almost what you have to do. Number 4. Number 4. COVID restrictions. I mean, talk about, yeah, I mean, you got the COVID restrictions, so why even think about going over to Europe right now? Because each country is so weird in how they handle all of that. It hasn't been worth thinking about for the last year and a half, honestly. So lately, definitely that's the reason. My hat boxes? Oh, you're not wrong, but geez. Oh, right, Jeremy, you're right. I would have to bring my golf clubs if I was going to Scotland. I mean, come on. If you go to Scotland, you've got to bring your clubs. I mean, come on, St. Andrews, you got to do that. Yeah, totally, totally, totally. Okay, number 3. Interest in Europe before the 18th century doesn't really exist for Rennies. Come on, I mean, if you're stuff going on in Europe now, we don't care. No, no, no. It's if the 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, 1400s, even before that, oh yeah, we want to know everything. But recent stuff, it's not important. Not important. We're historical Anglophiles and all of that kind of thing. Oh yes, 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 yes. Number 2. Number 2. Lost luggage means lost garb. Are you really willing to risk that? Come on, think about it. I mean, that's just scary. You're going to put all of this valuable stuff. I mean, for me, my garb is the most expensive clothing I own, and we're going to put all of that and trust it to an airline. I don't think so. I don't really think so. I don't think so. Yeah, yeah. And the number 1 reason Americans don't pay attention to European Ren fairs, number 1 reason. If the fair is in Europe, it would be too real. I mean, come on. Going to a Ren fair, it's half history and half fantasy. It always has been. It's never been completely historically accurate. I mean, turkey legs. Let's just be honest here. It's never been completely historically accurate. And if you go to Europe and you have a Ren fair there, it's almost a little too real. It'd be eerie. It would feel wrong. I don't know. I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work. Oh, and Jeremy is saying buy an oversized T-shirt and rip the sleeves off. Yeah, just go with the get the material, ship it there, and make it make it when you get there. That's right. Have a few extra days there and make some basic garb. I like it. I like it. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's Susan is right. Don't trust your regular clothes to an airline. Yeah, that's why everybody tries to carry on as much as they can. It's totally true. And Janine went to virtual TAFCon. Oh, hosted in England. Yeah, yeah, the time zone changes. That's another interesting one. Right, Kurt? Everybody's accent. That would just be, I mean, come on. It's like they're not doing a British accent right. I don't care if you're British. You're not doing it right. Right, right. Oh, right. I see. I see. Well, yeah. I mean, Janine, I mean, geologically, sure, it's very recent. I mean, of course. Of course. I mean, whenever I can, I try to get my Precambrian on. I do, because those were the days. Those were the days. Right? Oh well, I knew Damaris when I said that earlier. I was thinking of you. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, making the garb isn't entirely out of the question. I could consider it for a festival overseas. You're right. I mean, honestly, getting some cloth and material in Europe might even be a better plan. Worth researching because they have some nice stuff over there. Let's be honest. Depends on where it is, but it might even be cheaper. So it's worth checking. It is worth checking. And Susan says they don't sound like Shakespeare, and I know Shakespeare. I love it. I love it. Scottish Shakespeare. Nice. So yeah, those are the 7 reasons that I came up with why Americans don't pay attention to European Ren fairs. Now, this has kind of inspired me, and I'm going to start doing some research on European fairs. And I've seen some of them, but they were more, let's just be honest, they were more historical festivals, like a July 4th parade that we would have, celebrating something that actually happened at that location 500 or 700 years ago. Sometimes it involves a saint, sometimes it involves a war, sometimes it involves a siege that the city defended, but they have this little festival parade thing that happens, and it's a little different. But finding fairs that are more like the fairs that we're familiar with, and there are some now. I'm going to start trying to put a list together and get that happening because I do find it interesting, and it would be interesting to go and go to a fair there in Europe if I could. So that's on my list, just so you know. Yes, yes. Susan, no, I do not make my own garb because I know my limitations. I can't say I haven't there have been times early on when I tried to, and I went through that. I actually made my own leather boots from scratch. Well, I did kill the deer, but I got the leather and punched it all out and got a pattern and worked on it and did it all. But so I did do a little of that early on, but you get to a point where it's kind of, I know other people could do better, and I could either spend all my time figuring that out or I could learn more songs. So yeah, you get to a point where you want to go with an expert, and yeah, if you can. And yeah, Katsurita, totally. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. And Drew is right. If you don't have a contract, wear what is comfortable. Especially with some of the heat going on right now, I think that is very good advice. Very good advice indeed. Oh yes, travel package, European fair crashers. I like it. I like it. I mean, there's bar hopping. How about fair hopping? I wonder how possible that would be to just go to different fairs if they have them, like lined up like that. Ooh, that would be. At the very least, I should write the script and submit it for a movie because that just sounds like fun. Mm. And Ketri is right. No one in this group would scorn you for wearing a Star Wars shirt, unless they're a really obsessed Star Trek fan. But other than that, you're good. Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, as always, great talking with you, and look forward to seeing you next week for another show of Fair Life. And yeah, maybe next time we'll have a Star Trek versus Star Wars discussion because that's not controversial at all. Always have to love that, right? Always, always, always. Ah, but yeah. Um, so have a great evening, a great night, and not only have a life that's fair, but have a fair life. Take care.